The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 150.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Welcome back to the EL. Today we have Erica Dhawan, author of Get Big Things Done, The Power of Connectional Intelligence. Welcome, Erica, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We take just a moment before we take a deep dive into your book and take some time to introduce yourself. Tell us just a little bit about you personally.
Absolutely. My name is Erica Dhawan, and I'm the co-author of the new book, Get Big Things Done, The Power of Connectional Intelligence. And I serve as a strategist for Fortune 500 companies, organizations, small business owners on accelerating the connectedness of their teams with their customers, with their clients, and with other stakeholders.
So first off, thank you for sharing that. And now let's jump right into the book. Get Big Things Done, which was made available, will be made available for purchase February 24th of this year, 2015. However, it's been available for pre-order already. So, Erica, we're going to move quickly, but we're here to cover the top questions that our listener/future reader would like to get answered. And the first one is, what was the inspiration behind writing Get Big Things Done?
Great question, Wade. So the inspiration behind Get Big Things Done actually starts with my personal story. I'm the child of I'm a first generation daughter of two Indian immigrants here in the United States. And, as you can imagine, my goal since childhood was probably to check all the boxes of success. Given my family background, I got a shiny degree from an Ivy League. I marched into a glamorous job on Wall Street. And like many other young people, I worked incredibly hard. But in the 2008 recession, I witnessed very firsthand what I would call the disillusionment, confusion, and burnout of my generation, the younger generation. And I saw how many dreams and passions were being squashed every day in corporate environments that weren't aligning with the new changes, new ways of working, new entrepreneurial ways of thinking. And after the financial collapse, I completely switched gears entirely to find more meaning in both my work and to better understand how the next generation, how entrepreneurs, how freelancers, how leaders that wanted to stay in corporate America could really leverage our passion and purpose and all of the resources available to us. And what I found through that research is that whether I was talking to a startup CEO, an NGO leader, or someone at a private equity firm, many of the struggles were similar. And the struggle was really around how to work intentionally and cut through the noise of our social, mobile, and digital technology to get big things done. Not just lots of things done, but big things done. And that's what led to me co-authoring research with a renowned business strategist named Nicole Jonai and coining this idea of connectional intelligence. But what I describe is, my real inspiration behind the book is, much of my life has been about being a bridge builder and a translator. And I think that this book is really about how we can all whether we're running our own company or managing a small team, can leverage the connectedness available to us in order to find value and meaning in today's connected world.
So, Erica, this is one of my favorite questions because it helps differentiate. As an avid reader, I'm just throttled with so many books. We talk about it all the time. Hundreds of books come out that are applicable to entrepreneurs every single month. And so this next question is important. What makes your book different from others regarding the same or similar topic?
Great question. And I think I would say this is such an important question when we think about books in today's era. The idea of building networks and leveraging connections is not new. There's a lot of research and conversation out there in today's world about that topic. But my book, Get Big Things Done, actually takes us beyond what I would call the limited view of networks as just a web of social assets or capital. And the idea in the book is a concept called connectional intelligence. And what connectional intelligence is all about is, just as game-changing as emotional intelligence was 10 years ago, what connectional intelligence is it really speaks to the quality of the connections we build rather than just the quantity of networks, and helps readers understand that networks don't simply or easily translate into outcomes, especially change. And while much of the research today around networks is around how to build networks, what this book teaches is really a game plan on why some people are better at mobilizing their web of relationships to actually get big things done than are others. And this book isn't about how to use tools and technologies or how to leverage social media or data. It's actually about the human ability in a skill that we can all build, that particularly 21st century innovators have, to maximize all of our connections and put them to significant use. And in particular, what the book offers is we've decoded what we call the 5 C's of connectional intelligence on how any individual can build and leverage connectional intelligence, and the 3 types of people that have connectional intelligence in a company, in an organization, or in a team. And so what leaders and readers could do with Malcolm Gladwell's books 10 years ago when he came out with Tipping Point was to understand why connectors matter. But today, with Get Big Things Done, what we can do is actually put it to significant use in our organizations and have a practical framework to take those ideas into action.
So, Erica, based on how you wrote this book, how do you suggest the reader engage? Is this a book that you designed to be read from front to back, or can they jump in and jump out based on the information that they need at that moment?
I'm a practical entrepreneur myself, and I think that books, we tried to be very connectionally intelligent about how we even wrote the book. So the book is written in a way where there's a set of stories that walk through how to use connectional intelligence in action across many different spheres and industries. But then we have a pragmatic guide called Putting It All Together. And that guide has, quiz, a manager guide, work plans to help you actually use it, and actually refers back to chapters and specific stories in the book. So you could start at the end and look at the part 3, how to get it all, how to get big things done, and then go back to stories, or you could start from the beginning, or you could start in the middle, depending on what your goals are and how to apply the ideas of the book.
Now that we know the purpose, a little bit of the background behind the book, let's take a deep dive into the content itself. So, really, what I'd like you to almost pretend like you're sitting down with a friend that you haven't talked to in a couple of years, and they're saying, "Hey, I heard you just came out with a book. Tell me all about it." And that you have the next 5 to 8 minutes to really lay out what you've put together. Will you do that for our listener?
Of course. So the book Get Big Things Done has 10 chapters, and I'll just give you a little walkthrough of what each chapter really encompasses and what it's all about. The first chapter is called The Big Wave, and really it answers the question, what is connectional intelligence, and where do we see it in work at the world? How is it changing individuals and groups across all sectors: business, sports, academics, and politics? And most importantly, what the first chapter answers is, how do we harness connectional intelligence to get to places that we all want to go? The second chapter is called The Roots of Connectional Intelligence. And the idea in the second chapter is that, we're living for the first time ever in history at a time where billions of people have been inclusively connected. And in this chapter, what we do is we explore the historical roots of connectional intelligence, when people's connections in spheres of influence were limited by time and location. And we also explore what some of the essential questions are that we want readers to think about that are at the center of connectional intelligence. And those questions are 4 key questions. They're: why do I want to do something that I want to do? What if? So really, what if I could do something completely different? I could connect with new spheres. Does it matter? So, when I am taking an action, really asking the question, does it matter, and how would it matter? And then how? So how do I get something done in today's world in a really meaningful way? And what readers will find in that chapter is that, today we're moving past what I would call Malcolm Gladwell's law of the few to really the connected potential of many. So after the first two chapters, we really move into what I would call part two of the book, which is made up of a series of chapters that highlight a set of stories of connectional intelligence in action. So chapter 3 is called How to Get Big Things Done, a Primer. And what this chapter does is it explores a topography of connectional intelligence in the modern world. We talk about stories of how a pumpkin farmer in Rhode Island is changing agricultural practices in India, how a group of first-year law associates created a highly efficient social media treasure trove of legal genius. Stories that include a 21-year-old Vietnamese immigrant who, working as a waitress, put herself through school and used her MacBook Pro to revolutionize the cosmetics industry, and how other more well-known leaders, like the founder of Khan Academy, are creating a powerful inversion of teaching and learning and changing the future of modern education. And then moving to chapter 4, what we do is after we've given that primer, we talk, chapter 4 is called Connect Intelligently. And this chapter continues to walk through a set of stories, but it really looks through how, the ever-changing digital landscape where, fortune typically now favors the brave, the quick, and the connectionally intelligent to get big things done. So we have stories in there of entrepreneurs, small businesses, and large businesses, from Colgate to Quirky, to the Honeybee Network, to Nike, to MIT's Little Devices Network, to Oreo, and to KLM. And then what we do in moving to chapter 5 is switch gears to another angle of connectional intelligence. And that angle is the title of the chapter, which is called Courage Builds on Courage. And this chapter is where we talk about how connectional intelligence isn't just about winning big in business or pursuing a big, ambitious, creative dream. Actually, more and more people are using their own connectional intelligence to respond within minutes and hours to natural disasters, to violent aftermath of political events, and to terrorist attacks. So we look at powerful stories of connectional intelligence after the earthquake in Haiti, to helping teens in crisis. And we talk about how using courage with a connectional intelligence is a key attribute of getting big things done. Moving to chapter 6, chapter 6 is called Connect and Make Change. And in this chapter, we talk about how you can use this idea to dramatically amp the reach and the influence of individuals, whether you're a one-off individual or whether you're part of a team. So we look at many different stories there, from a scientist, an individual scientist who's using virtual reality games to lower pain for burn victims, to a 9-year-old schoolgirl in the UK whose protests about unhealthy lunches sparked a national debate about nutrition that actually amplified into a nonprofit she funds. And we also share with you stories about a group of grandmothers in England who, through connectivity and caring, are making meaning in their own lives, and mentoring slum children in India through video interaction on Skype. So in this chapter, we really get to how connectional intelligence, again, isn't just about big business or starting a company or leveraging courage in emergency situations, but it's about how anyone and everyone can tap into what they care about most. So then we move into chapter 7. And chapter 7 is called Problem Solving and the Power of Play. And chapter 7 is all about how one of the most powerful forms of connectional intelligence is how individuals are designing problems in a way that actually attracts people to pitch in and solve them differently. So this includes the rise of digital games and how people are using digital games to make connections and engage a larger crowd to address situations like language learning, like waste cleanup, and solving scientific problems. And then what we do is we move to chapter 8. Chapter 8 is called The Power of Difference. And in this chapter, we talk about one of the most important attributes of connectional intelligence is that it allows people to come together, but also stand strong in what makes them unique. And I think this is particularly important for entrepreneurs. We talk about how connectional intelligence actually enables what we'll call those that might consider themselves an outsider or a maverick. We look at the evolution of the music superstar Pharrell and how he created a powerful geek supporting youth campaign called I Am Other. We look at Deloitte and how they've launched an Uncovering Diversity program to allow, through video storytelling, people in their organization to tell personal stories. And we also look at the author, John Green, and his powerful, inspiring crew of nerd fighters, which is a network, an entrepreneurial network of those that care about social change, but might see themselves as doing it in a really geeky, interesting way. And then what we do is we move to chapter 9, and chapter 9 is called Why Not? Reimagining What's Possible. And in this chapter, we have readers meet those that are changing the face of healthcare education and environmental change, and who are affecting our lives in the present and the future. And this chapter is really adventurous. For if you're an adventurer out there, chapter 9 will really help you see how you might be able to use connectional intelligence to address some of our most pressing problems in the world, just through engagement on your laptop or part of a community that already exists. And then, the final chapter, and it's really a whole section, is called Putting It All Together. And it's called Your Get Big Things Done Handbook. And now that, a reader has read about connectional intelligence, the big question is how do you apply it in your own life as an entrepreneur, as an initiator of change, and as a disruptor? And so it's in that section that we dive into what I call the 5 C's of connectional intelligence, a work plan about how to take these ideas into action, a manager guide, and 10 different connectional intelligence role models, and where you can go back to specific stories in the book and learn about how to apply this to your own business and your own life. So I'll just stop there because that's a full run through of Get Big Things Done. But most importantly, I think that if you're a reader who cares about tapping into the dreams that you really care about, this book is for you, and this book is for anyone and everyone that sees themselves as being able to use connectional intelligence in a way to get big things done.
Erica, you did a phenomenal job of taking us through your book. I know that's not necessarily easy to do, and it's not. I've heard from so many authors that this is the first time they've ever actually had to go through their book like that in an interview. They've done hundreds of interviews, but never had to do one quite the same way. And you did a fantastic job. This next question is to break it down. You just went through a ton of great content and context, and so now it's we're looking for, if the reader can only take away one concept, principle, action item out of your entire book, everything you just took the time to discuss with us, what would you want that to be?
I would say there is one really major concept that we decoded in our book that I think is incredibly important. And that concept is that there are 3 types of people that use connectional intelligence. And the 3 types of people are 1, thinkers, 2, enablers, and 3, connection executors. And these are people that have different types of traits, and you can, in the book, by taking a quiz, you can help figure out which type you are. But thinkers are people that are really great at bringing different ideas together. They have high curiosity and a lot of courage to bring ideas together. One example of a thinker in the book is a woman named Jeannie Pieper. And this woman had a very rare disease called FOB. And one of the things that she really asked is, what if we could connect everyone in the world that had this rare disease to help learn from each other? And by thinking of that idea, she ended up making it happen. And what she ended up doing is now there's a community of people all around the world that are connected for the first time that have this rare disease. And they're now teaching doctors certain symptoms related to this disease and funding research at the University of Pennsylvania. So the second type of person is an enabler. An enabler is someone who's really more of a connector through community building. They know how to build communities and mobilize those communities into action. And one example from the book of an enabler is a woman named Michelle Phan. Michelle Phan is today known as a YouTube superstar, but one of the things that she did is create makeup tutorial videos online for free on YouTube. And what she did over a series of years is build a community of hundreds of thousands of people, now millions of subscribers that follow these makeup tutorials from all walks of life. And now she's struck deals with Google and L'Oreal, and she's enabled an entire community that typically wasn't engaged in the cosmetics industry to actually being engaged, primarily the millennial generation. And the third type of connectionally intelligent person is a connection executor. And the connection executors are those that are really, I would say a lot of entrepreneurs fit this bucket. These are people that know how to mobilize things to get big things done in action. These are people that put all the pieces together in a quick, easy way. And an example of a connection executor is a man named Ben Thompson. Ben Thompson was a surfer, and he created, and also an engineer, and he created a sensor called SmartFin. And what this sensor does is you put it under your surfboard. And what surfers are now doing now is they put it under their surfboard, and it tracks the salinity, acidity, and temperature of the water based on their location. And this data is now being used by climate change researchers to better understand location-based issues around climate change. And what he did is he was a connection executor. He really put the pieces together to turn it into action. So the big idea is that, by reading this book, you can learn not only whether or not you are a connector and how to use connections, but what type of connector you are and how you can partner with the right people in your community and your network to get big things done.
This next question might be a little bit different than something you've maybe gotten in the past, and that's: do you have a favorite quote from your book, something that you wrote? And obviously it's not out yet, so we can't really tell what the audience loves just yet. But a quote from your book, and then if you can go into a little bit of the explanation of the quote itself.
Absolutely. I would say my favorite quote from our book is what we called sort of the manifesto that started our book. And it's featured in chapter 1 and at the end of the book again. And the quote is, "Take a dream, add connection, dream bigger, get big things done." And that manifesto, I think, encompasses the book so well, because what Get Big Things Done is all about is it's about reminding you what your dreams really are and how you can own them for success. And that, this book isn't about using people for relationships. It's about a more intentional way of creating impact in your life and in the lives of others with your full heart, brain, and mind power. So I love that quote because it really manifests what the idea of the book is all about.
So this last question, obviously, as a book-centric podcast, we have to ask this, and book lovers love to get book recommendations. So what we're looking for here is not just any book recommendation. It doesn't have to be fiction or nonfiction or on business. It can be whatever you choose. But really what we're looking for is one book you could recommend to our listeners based on the way that it's impacted your life, really created a paradigm or a lifestyle shift for you.
Yeah, so there's so many I can think of, but I'll pick one that I've read recently, and that is Choose Yourself by James Altucher. It's an amazing book around the idea of choosing yourself to take action, and that, each of us every day have have the choice to act or not act. And it really, it's a powerful book, I would say, for entrepreneurs and any leader out there who is really trying to make change in the world. And I think it's such a great complement to Get Big Things Done, because it starts with the individual, and then it helps you think about how to take that and turn it into action.
Excellent. So we have time for one more recommendation. Do you have one of your all-time, maybe you read it even a long time ago, but an all-time favorite?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a fiction book called Americana. By Chimamanda Ngozi, and she's an amazing African author. And this book is about basically how the idea and notion of being Black in America as compared to being African. And what I think is so powerful about the book, much more, is about the idea and notion of identity and the identities we take on in different environments. And I think it has a powerful application also for leaders and entrepreneurs, particularly that, when we're starting a business, we're creating and developing new ideas. We take on new identities, we take on new roles, and they're shaped by the environments we're in. And I think that, reading fiction has been really powerful to me to actually help us think about how we enact and empower those new identities in a way that's really constructive and enabling for the communities and the change we're trying to create.
Excellent. So, Erica, before we depart, can you recommend the best way for listeners to not only get more information on you, but also your book, Get Big Things Done?
Absolutely. So the first thing is that you can pre-order Get Big Things Done on getbigthingsdone.com and also on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles. You can learn more about me at ericadhawan.com, ERICADHAWAN.com. And most importantly, I have a special gift for the Entrepreneurs Library podcast listeners. If you text a certain number that I'll give you now and write my name in it, I will send you a free exclusive manager guide on how to use connectional intelligence with your team and a quiz to help you and your other team members assess your connectional intelligence. So I'll give you the number now that you can type into your phone. If you text the number 66866 and type in Erica in all caps, you'll get information on how to get by email the details of the free quiz and manager guide. That's text 66866 and type in Erica in the text message, and you'll get that directly and the details of it in the response. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to share more with Entrepreneurs Library Podcast, and I hope you'll read the book and learn more and join the community.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that offer. And I love the way that you approach it as well, because I think from what I've heard and read, I think that most people who listen to podcasts are mobile. Now, usually like 55, I think they say 60%. However, because our audience is a ton of entrepreneurs, we see it closer to like 75 to 78% are mobile. And so the fact that a lot of times if you reference a website to go to, not nearly as powerful as what you're talking about, being able to go and text in 66866 was what you said, and then Erica to be able to get access. So those of you that are on a treadmill, on a beach walking somewhere, hopefully not driving, maybe you need to stop if you're going to be driving, but and then Erica will also put that in our show notes for those that do need to go back and actually reference it when they're in front of a computer. But a couple things. Thank you for the offer, and then also thank you for coming on today and sharing your book with us.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Thanks again for listening in today. If you would like a copy of Erica's book, Get Big Things Done, go to the elpodcast.com and click on Become a VIP. And if you want more information on her book, go to the same website, the elpodcast.com, and visit the show notes page. You'll also get access to her special offer that she had there at the end for the additional assessment.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to the elpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's the elpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.